The Ward 6 MPA meeting will now come to order. I'm Nancy Harkins. I'm on the steering committee, and
I'm Dale Lazaria, also on the steering committee.
and that's it for the steering committee tonight.
Romeo's online.
Oh, Romeo's online.
But maybe didn't realize, like, after our delayed start.
Barbara and Charlie, want to introduce yourselves?
Sure. Hi, I'm Barbara Turnbull. I'm the city's NPA coordinator.
I'm Charlie G. I work for CCTV and I record all the NPA meetings in Burlington.
And Fareed is going to be back in a minute. He brought our wonderful food. I just want to remind everybody of a couple of housekeeping things. The mics are for the benefit of the people who are online. So if you're speaking, you need to be by a mic. And if you need to be speaking pretty loudly because people in the room are not going to have any amplification. So with that, does anybody have any announcements they would like to make?
I'd like to.
Oh, Kevin?
Sure.
Just pass them back a microphone, please. Good.
Hi, everybody. My name is Kevin Bloom. I use they, them pronouns. I'm from Ward 1. I'm here to listen and learn and hang out with all you awesome folks. I'm also here to let you all know that I'm running for the office of Sheriff of Chittenden County. I'm running on a platform of eviction reform through eviction prevention to keep children and families housed and get landlords paid to create a safer community for all of us. I'm the only person in the state of Vermont who's running for sheriff who advocates to abolish ICE. And if elected, I will be the first transgender person in the history of America to be an elected sheriff. I've got these little handout campaign lit stuff, and I love answering folks' questions about, what is a sheriff? What do they do in our community? And what could they do to help our community? And I'm going to be hanging out. So if anyone has any questions, please come up to me and ask me. I'd love to talk to you.
Say it again.
My name's Kevin Bloom.
Like a flower.
Thank you.
I just want to express my appreciation for this good food.
Mm.
Thank you, Charlie.
Any other announcements? So we have our perennial announcement that we've been having every meeting, which is that several of the steering committee members, I would say the majority, our terms are up in September, and we've had really good luck in recruiting some new members, one of whom actually already joined the steering committee, Hannah Riley. But if anybody else is interested, you can reach out to anyone on the steering committee to learn more about it. It's a great way to contribute to the community. It's a few hours a month, and you get to meet a lot of great people in the community. With that, we'll turn it over to DPW.
Thank you so much. Appreciate being here. Ward 6 NPA, you certainly made it convenient for Rob and myself to make it, given that we work out of this building. I'm Chapin Spencer, Director of Public Works. And thanks, Barbara, for putting up the presentation. We are going to go quickly through just an overview of our work this coming season and then open it up for questions. I will speak to the bigger projects and Rob will talk about the paving and sidewalk work for the year. So next. The big news is that after multiple years, the Champlain Parkway and the Great Streets Main Street project will be complete in 2 to 3 short months, and both projects are on time and on budget. So I know we're all excited to see the completion of these projects because the construction has been impactful. But as you're seeing here, the projects really unlock a lot of potential for our community, for additional housing development, for economic development, etc. Next. Let's see. You go back, there should be, oh, okay. Yeah, you can go for it. So just left on Main Street and Champlain Parkway, those projects over the next 2 to 3 months will be doing things like paving. Main Street had paving happening today. There'll be line striping, there'll be final sign installation, grass restoration, tree planting, those types of things. Main Street, we'll see some really cool art installations happening as well. Hopefully you'll all like those under the city's 1% for art policy. And once these projects complete, there'll be a bit of a lull for the rest of the season, which I think we'll all be appreciative of, at least in terms of big projects. Rob will talk about our paving and sidewalk work. Next on the hopper is the reconnecting Bank and Cherry Streets. You're seeing here in this image, Cherry Street and Bank Street running horizontally. But included in this project is a really exciting reconnection of the downtown street grid. As many of you may know, probably most folks here don't recall, 70 years ago that the city ripped out the street grid downtown as part of urban renewal. And we are going to be creating 2 connections, one on Pine and one on St. Paul, to allow people to go north-south through downtown again for walking, biking, driving. This will really help facilitate people getting around in and through downtown. The work on Cherry Street, we're expecting to either start in 2027 or 2028. There's been some conversation in the community as to whether we could provide a greater pause downtown for construction to allow downtown to breathe between projects. Next. So what's the Champlain Parkway? This originally, as you may recall, was designed in the 1960s and 70s as a 4-lane high-speed highway through our community. It would have divided neighborhoods. It is now a 25-mile-an-hour 2-lane city street with a lot of stormwater improvements, pedestrian enhancements, over 2 miles of shared use path, etc. Next. We are looking for the, and here's what's left to do on the Champlain Parkway. I won't go over that. But the big news is the interstate connection to I-189 should be open as of mid to late June. So we are close. Next. Main Street, we've talked a little bit about this, really is coming together quite nicely. Why don't you just go to the next slide with time. Here's what's left to do. One of the major accomplishments of this project is that we have realigned the sewer through downtown. As many may recall, there's an old ravine through downtown. And back when they transitioned from stopping running a rail line through the ravine because it kept flooding, go figure, they bricked it in and made a sewer back in the 1880s. No sewer plant, but a pipe to run all the sewage to the lake. And we were able to rebuild a modern conveyance that's much safer, more rigid, and allow for redevelopment of parcels that couldn't support development above the old ravine sewer. A good example of that is the Post Apartments project you've seen be completed where the old VFW was. And so that building is on top of the old ravine sewer, couldn't have opened until we abandoned the ravine. Next. All right.
So thank you for having us. Chapin had the opportunity to brief you on some of the big projects that we have remaining to finish this year. I get to talk a little bit about the bread and butter work, where we'll go around the city working on our sidewalk and paving network to try to restore as much as possible for this year. I didn't get it in the presentation in time, but I have a map here of all the streets and sidewalks we've been able to work on over the last decade in Ward 6. I think we've had a fairly robust spate of investments. We'll talk about where we're going to be this year, and then talk a little bit at the end about how you can let us know what else needs to be done, whether we have time, funding, or availability this year or in future years. We are pleased to say the season has started. As you may have run into, we are well underway with our sidewalk and paving work. We have a $1.6 million sidewalk contract approved by City Council in February. In addition to the in-house work we do with our own crews, we'll be approaching 3 to 3+ miles of sidewalk reconstruction this year which puts us on a more sustainable schedule to rehabilitate our sidewalk network on a sustainable schedule. Sidewalks can last roughly 40 years. We have 130 miles of sidewalk. So that puts us on an every year, we need about 3 miles of reconstruction to kind of meet the sidewalk reconstruction need. The sidewalk and paving contracts this year are largely funded by the town meeting day bond votes that the residents of Burlington voted fairly overwhelmingly for in 2025. So we thank you for your support and thank you for your patience as that money gets out onto the street and as the inevitable sometimes disruptions around the city come. Next slide, please. We will often get asked about how we make our work plan annually and or kind of the 5-year trajectory for sidewalks and for paving. I think, ultimately what we need to say is all of this work is dependent on funding. So we take funding, we take field inspections, we take an annual inventory of our paving network or roughly every 5-year inventory of our sidewalk network, mechanically assessed, field inspections by our engineers and interns, pictures, and we take your reports through SeeClickFix or our customer service team to try to put the best work plan every year with the funding available that we can. A lot more goes into it. We assign activity scores based on schools, senior centers, how the street's been activated. So a lot of metrics go into it, but ultimately there's a lot that goes into making that annual plan. Next slide. You can see our contract list before you this year, some kind of nearby streets, not Ward 6 heavy as they've been for sidewalk reconstruction in prior years. I meant to update this highlighted section. We do have a St. Paul Street RRFB, which is a flashing rapid beacon crosswalk by Decker Towers. So if you happen to be a pedestrian, it's nearby, near to Ward 6, walking through that area, you'll be able to benefit from an even safer crossing that we're pleased to share with you. This is what's being done by our contractor. We will have a lot more smaller sections done by in-house crews. That list can evolve as the year goes on based on need, safety concerns, and how the season treats us. If we have great weather and funding availability, we can kind of keep pushing, but ultimately in-house we'll do about a mile of sidewalk. Next slide, please. Paving, the asphalt plants are open. Pleased to say we were heavily out beginning some paving projects this week on Main Street, Union Street, and on Colchester Avenue. So we are busy in the immediate areas of downtown and nearby. We have about 3.5 miles of paving planned this year. We are clearly emerging from a rough winter, maybe the coldest winter in 19 years, according to local media. And so that will often disrupt the ground, the asphalt, the pipes under the ground. And that really challenges us to put together as robust of a work plan as we can with the funding that's available. We try to meet a 4-mile annual paving kind of target. This year, as the town meeting day money is getting out on the street, we're approaching that 4 miles. We think we have a more robust ability to get out on the street with that money and get more streets paved in the coming years. We have had some positive trajectories with more competitive bids this year that we haven't had in recent years, which allowed us to add a little bit more to the paving schedule this year. However, we have to be mindful of fuel costs, inflation, and other things outside of local government control, but we're monitoring that closely to see where we land for future years. Next slide, please. I won't go too far into detail. This is very similar to the sidewalk network, but we do get that question. How do you make your paving list every year? And again, it does come down to funding, street type, street condition, what projects are nearby that we can marshal resources in a more, in a more competitive way to build projects together. If we need to work on pipes underground, we want to coordinate that with asphalt reconstruction if we need to. So a lot of things go into that, as it does for sidewalks. We are always happy offline to talk more about that, or at the end if hopefully we have plenty of time for questions. Next slide. You can see where we'll be active this year. A lot of kind of downtown streets. If you happen to go downtown, drive through downtown, you'll notice a lot of activity, College, Pearl, Main Street, some other nearby streets and other streets kind of across the city, and also heavily focused in the new North End. We have some patching already scheduled as funding, time, and weather allow. We expect perhaps to add more short patches to that list. Those are going to be less intensive, less invasive, less comprehensive than a full curb-to-curb paving. does allow us to fix up streets. Let us know through C-Click Fix where potholes are forming, where cracks are forming, or where you think we need to devote more resources to. Next slide. I'll quickly say, we will always be happy to come back to talk more about this, but we are underway with upgrades to the wastewater treatment plants. The voters of Burlington also voted overwhelmingly for some significant bonds that have helped us begin our reinvestment, a generational reinvestment into these wastewater treatment plants. We're underway with stage 0, which doesn't exactly use the money that was voted on last year, but is an important project that helps us kind of get ready for the future phases of this work. We'll have a slide that might be hard to see at the end. It is online later on, where you can see how we've broken out that work. We do expect to go out for bid for part of that phase 1 wastewater treatment plant contract. And it's going to be a real investment into the wastewater treatment plants, which are kind of undergird our ability to protect Lake Champlain, pillar of our economy, public health, and recreation. We have other projects, water main improvements, Anna Manhattan Avenue, stormwater, outfall improvement projects, which are going to have material benefits to water quality and our ability to capture and convey stormwater in a safer way. Next slide. This is online. It's going to be hard for you to see, but it breaks out into the various stages, how the wastewater treatment projects can unfold and are likely to unfold with target years, and how we're going to be marshaling that bond money and our ability to reinvest in this critical infrastructure. Next slide. A couple things you can do if you're so inclined. We are a partner in the Blue BTV Stormwater Program Network. You can have a free stormwater assessment done on your property to help you figure out how you can better manage stormwater on your property. Could be a benefit to you and certainly a larger benefit to the city. It'll be able to provide you a nice inventory of different projects you may be able to take on based on your property's kind of landscape and features. In addition, we are a partner in the Adopt a Drain Network. It allows folks to go online, you get some neat equipment, adopt a drain nearby, near where you live or work, help us clear it, help alert us when it needs more intensive infrastructure kind of work. So we're ready for storms, ready for keeping that litter, leaf debris out of the storm drains. Next slide. We have a couple of ways we'd like to highlight so you know how to reach us and inform our work. First and maybe easiest is C-Click Fix. If you go on the city website or download the app, you should be able to easily find a link to C-Click Fix where you can let us know if a pothole, crack in the sidewalk, other kinds of repairs are necessary. I think we do a really good job at DPW of making sure we acknowledge those and get out in a short time frame to address the short-term infrastructure impacts. Sometimes you may see longer term things linger, like a paving project that may require months or years of kind of investigation and ultimately funding. You can also find out about our current work visiting, of course, Front Porch Forum, where we try to maintain an active presence for larger, more disruptive projects. Signage across the city if we happen to be paving or doing sidewalk near your property or your workplace. And then we encourage you to sign up or think about signing up for VT Alert. You can find that on our website, and that will allow you to get real-time texts or emails about some of the more higher impact things that go on in the city that we manage. Boil water events, large-scale water main breaks, high impact traffic disruptions from our construction work. There's about 23 or so thousand people signed up for that for Burlington Alerts. We hope you would think about becoming one of them if you're not. And then finally, if none of those things feel right to you, we maintain a great and active presence right here at Pine Street. You can call, visit, or email us if you'd like to report any issues that way, complaints, concerns, or compliments. We'll take it all. Phone number and email are up there, easily available on our website, and we'd love to hear more from you if you have anything to report. So thank you for your time and having us, and if there's time, we're certainly happy to take questions.
So I see signs on Cliff Street that it's gonna get repaved, but it wasn't mentioned at the meeting yesterday that with the Walkway Council, but is it on the list?
Thank you. That's right. Cliff Street is another street that was on our 2025 list, and we got pretty late in the season, had signs out, and then we could not get that underway last year. We do expect it to be done this year. I think that's scheduled for the middle part of the construction season, which would be kind of a an early summer timeframe. We don't have that dialed in yet with the schedule. As current projects go on, we get a clearer sense of when that'll happen.
Spruce Street, right above Union, has a spring that's pouring water out onto the street, and it's massive ice in the winter. So the sidewalk's unusable and part of the street's unusable.
Bruce Street, and I missed that, I'm sorry.
Right above Union,
Thank you.
there's cracks and water going through. Yeah. And then the question I had is, you've got this incredible shared use path here on Pine Street, but then it ends. And then there was supposed to be a railroad connection that went to Battery Street. What happened?
Yeah, there's multiple projects in development. Thank you. There's multiple projects in development. As you recall, yes, if you go north, the shared use path does connect currently to bike lanes at Kilburn Street that take you up into the downtown street grid where the speed limit lowers to 20 miles an hour. There is a separate project called the Rail Yard Enterprise Project, which is looking to connect Pine Street behind kind of Curtis Lumber over to Battery Street. That is a project that is in its right-of-way phase currently. It's a short section to build a road. We don't own the right-of-way. This is a very complex situation where we would need to acquire property rights from a host of properties behind the Curtis Lumber in order to make that quarter-mile connection. The project itself is estimated at around $55 million. A huge chunk of that is mitigating railroad impacts. Railroads in the United States have a lot of legal protections, and how we protect their operations and sneak a road through is a complicated proposition. So that project is advancing, but it is advancing slowly.
I see Diane has her hand raised. Diane, you want to go ahead?
Yes, thank you.
Diane?
Thank you, Nancy. Diane Gayer here. So I went to the Plan BTV 2050 open house. I guess it was last week. And as far as I noticed, and I can say that I did not spend 5 hours there, there was very little about stormwater. There was very little about, as I recall, the flooding that we had in 2011 that took out the bike path and almost impacted the wastewater treatment plant. So there were sections in this 2050 presentation of tables that I don't think got very far in asking questions about our infrastructure for the future. So the role of city departments, I think, can play a big piece of this, where as an individual, I can't. And the other piece that I noticed had to do with roadways, that people were asked to take a strip of gray paper and build out a street formation that you might call a complete street. But maybe in this day and age, thinking 2050, we're not in Burlington trying to build more roads. We've just barely, not yet, finished the Champlain Parkway or the Main Street infrastructure. So why is the presentation of 2050 for Burlington about more roadways? So my drift is that really the question is, how do we mitigate circulation, transportation, enhance multiple modal uses, and get the planning for the city reoriented to the future and not questions left over from the 1950s. Thank you.
Oh, what a bomb.
Great, thank you, Diane. A host of really good feedback there related to stormwater. Your input is well taken. The Plan BTV 2050 is a merger of 4 different plans. The comprehensive plan, which is a planning document, the parks master plan, the transportation plan, and the community and economic development plan. So all those are together, and stormwater and our work with water resources is going to be a component of that, certainly as it relates to our public rights of way and managing stormwater there on our roads and parks. And our water resources team is doing their own master planning for building out not only our collection system networks and our plant upgrades, as Rob was talking about, but really looking at how do we develop more smartly with each development, such as the Secord development right across the parking lot here. We're constrained on our wastewater collection system that goes up Pine Street. So anything we can do to manage stormwater, to Diana's point, is really important. Second, to roadways, that activity, I hear you, that happened about strips of paper was not so much about building new roadways, but how do we allocate space on our existing roadways? And as people know, we are not Salt Lake City, where our rights of way are 150 feet wide, where they can fit huge roads, huge shared use paths, green belts and everything. Our roads were developed for the horse and buggy when Burlington developed. And as a result, our roads are much narrower. And that really creates a challenge for us. But through coordination, we can figure out what streets do the protected bike facilities go on, what streets need to accommodate transit, what streets are going to be vehicle oriented, and make those allocations accordingly. Thank you.
I have a question, and I'm asking about a particular street, but I think the question is actually broader than that. And the street that I'm asking about is the block of South Prospect Street, the one-way section, that had speed bumps installed, I think about 25 years ago, and now has potholes that slow the traffic way more than any speed bump ever could. And there's stories about it being a private road and all of that. And I know that there was also stuff in the papers over the last year about a whole bunch of private roads. So that's why I think I'm kind of asking a broader question. I just wonder if you could explain, like, if that road ever gets repaved, why it doesn't ever get repaved, and that kind of stuff.
Right. Great question. That section of South Prospect Street is a private road. To the best of the city's deed research, that is not publicly owned, and therefore we would not spend public tax dollars on maintaining that stretch of road. It is connected to an effort that we're calling the Unaccepted Streets effort, which is we are looking at streets that over history have had unclear ownership. There are a couple dozen streets that fit in the unaccepted category, which we do not either know who owns them, or there is really no record, at least currently accessible, as to ownership. And that uncertainty has left adjacent property owners not investing in the corridor because they don't know if it's private or public, and the city has not invested significantly. There are some of these unaccepted streets that we plow and fill potholes, but don't necessarily do capital reinvestment. Then you have to look underground. A private street has different ownership responsibilities over the water mains, sewer mains, and stormwater pipes. So trying to figure that all out, we've had a couple of presentations to the City Council's Transportation, Energy, and Utilities Committee. We had one presentation to the full council. And this is going to be a multiple year effort to finally go through the entire list of streets. We're going to do the deed research. We're going to work with the adjacent neighbors and come up with a recommendation we'll bring to the city council. And ultimately, it's the city council's decision whether or not to formally accept these streets and then have the public resource to upgrade those streets. So stay tuned. There's a bunch of information on DPW's website. Thanks, Councilor McNeil, for being engaged in this issue. And we really welcome people's input, especially if you live on a street that is one of these unaccepted or private streets.
So who does own the street? The property owner? Does the adjacent property owner own that portion of the roadway?
South Prospect, that's our understanding, yes. And sometimes the private streets were set up, but then the development company never deeded it either to a homeowners association or to the city. So it's quite possible that they're in legal limbo as well. And so that's a process that each street will have its own legal history that we will need to unravel. The challenge of an old city where the record keeping back 30, 50, 100 years ago was not what it is today.
Okay. Can you make it quick?
One more question. South Winooski,
Can you, excuse me, can you get close to a mic, please?
Come on up.
one question, South Winooski used to be a no truck road. And then the construction on Main Street started, the sign got taken down. And now there's tons of semis going down Winooski, which has got bicyclists on both sides and a very short light at St. Paul. Is that gonna get put back up for the future?
Right. That's a great question. The truck routes have not changed in the past couple of years. So I will double check that that section of South Winooski, which I believe you're correct, is not a truck route. And if that is the case, we can put back up the sign you're talking about.
Thank you.
Yeah,
That'd be great.
great.
Okay.
Thanks for having us. Really appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. And I'll just put in a plug for BTV because we had an assessment on our property and put in a rain garden last year.
Blue
So,
BTV. Yeah,
yeah.
it's
Blue
free.
BTV.
We'd love to have your
Yeah.
participation.
We did it too. Great. Awesome.
Great.
Yeah, suggestion.
Okay, thank you. Now I'll turn it over to Nick and Pike from 350.org on McNeil.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Pike Porter. I'm a resident of this ward, and this is Nick. He's Ward 3 resident. Independently, and now kind of together, we identified some discrepancies in the Burlington Electric Integrated Resource Plan, known as an IRP, and are seeking to have Burlington Electric start a plan for retirement for the following reasons that I'll get into. Next slide, please. Nick tweeted something about district energy, and Bill McKibben surprisingly responded. And I think his response is worth reviewing because I think it identifies that the science has changed since 1984 when Burlington Electric started firing McNeil. There were good reasons in 1984 to build McNeil, and I appreciated that it was built back then. It was a bold, innovative thing to do, and it met the solutions at the time. However, now in 2026, it is no longer a really viable means to create electricity. Bill McKibben identifies that. He identifies that we need to adapt and change our thinking about things. Bill is probably with Greta Thunberg, one of the most well-known environmentalists, but hundreds of unknown climate and environmental scientists also agree. So when you get into the science and the data, this sense that we can't burn wood to create electricity is established. Next slide, please. So again, it started running in 1984. It's located in Interville. It primarily burns wood. It has been adapted so it can burn other sources of fuel, natural gas, diesel, etc. It's the largest producer of electricity in Vermont. It's also the largest stationary source of greenhouse gases in Vermont, averaging over 350,000 tons of carbon dioxide annually. It equals about 32 to 45% of BED's total power supply needs. McNeil runs based on various factors of different amounts every year, so it changes every year, but roughly between 32 and 45%. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, it's the largest stationary source of greenhouse gases in Vermont. It is also a very large emitter of other pollutions in addition to CO2, particularly particulate matter PM 2.5, which is invisible particles that lodge in the lungs and create respiratory illnesses. We've heard about the PM 2.5 problem because of wildfires from coming out west. McNeil emits the very same stuff. Over 5 tons of PM 2.5 are dumped into the neighborhoods surrounding the plant. And it's also very expensive. It's the most expensive source of all of Burlington's energy assets. There are readily available, less expensive, cleaner replacements out there. As a 42-year-old plant, as far as I can tell, it's the oldest biomass plant in the world. And that's important because we are now paying millions in upkeep and repairs and expenses to keep it going. Next slide, please. Wood is not a great source of energy when you're trying to create electricity. It's the most carbon intensive of all the fuels out there. It emits roughly twice as much carbon per unit energy as natural gas. A company called Innovation Natural Resources Solutions, who has done work for BED and has also done work for the state legislature. Bram may have read some of their documents. They did a recent report on Rygate. In that report, they also identified that on average, it takes about 2 gallons of fuel to log 1 ton of wood. McNeil burns anywhere between 350,000 tons of wood annually. So we're talking of 700 to 800,000 gallons of fuel, diesel fuel, etc., that is being used to support the logging that's never even really talked about. But we have to consider those when we're talking about carbon emissions as well. Next slide, please. So I'm going to talk about the 3 issues, the carbon piece, the carbon pollution, the health, and the costs. And it's not just BED, but BED claims that McNeil is carbon neutral because they use sustainably forestry practices and the wood eventually regrows. So they think of it as a closed loop cycle. This is a theory that is promoted largely by the timber industry and the logging industries throughout the country. But when you get into the science, when you look at what the climate scientists write, this idea is clearly debunked. Even if this were true, though, there's a recent report a couple of years out that identifies that if we keep logging and developing our forests here in Vermont in the same rate we are, by 2050 and 25 years, Vermont forests are going to be net emitters of CO2. This is already happening in Canada. It's already happening in Amazon. It's happening elsewhere in the world. So even if this were true, that there's this closed loop cycle, we're losing our forests so that 25 years, you wouldn't be able to make this claim. So we would like to stop this before we get to the point where the claim can no longer even be somewhat justified. there's also the concern that, just because we talk about or trying to create this carbon neutral process, the climate scientist Bill Muma, in a presentation several years ago in Burlington, advised that, carbon neutral is not climate neutral. It takes 80 to 100 years to replace the tree that is burned immediately at McNeil. Over that 80 to 100-year period, the CO2 pollution in the atmosphere is generating heat. That heat is not reduced when the CO2 is pulled back out of the atmosphere. And the analogy I try to think of is a freezer. Say you lose power for a week and your freezer heats up. You can refreeze your freezer, but the food in there is gone, it's damaged, and it's not going to come back. Similarly, if we can reclaim the carbon dioxide, if, and it's a big if, the damage that has done in the intermediate time is already done damage. We can't return, we can't refreeze the Arctic. We can't redo coral reefs. We can't lower the heat in the oceans. So we really immediately have to stop putting the CO2 in the air. One last point before I move on, but you can move on. Again, 1984, based on most understanding of the climate cycle, which I'll get to, only half of the CO2 pollution that McNeil emitted in 1984 has been reabsorbed. So when we talk about this life cycle, just put that in mind. 1984, only half of that carbon has been reabsorbed. The timber industry likes to show on the left there this debunked closed loop theory, where fossil fuel carbon dioxide goes straight into the atmosphere. And somehow, some way, trees know which is biogenic CO2 and can absorb those that come from the tree. It doesn't work this way. So I pulled a similar, more complete model from the NASA website. It's a little hard to read, but in the middle there, it says human emissions, and you can see a power plant. Doesn't matter if that power plant is wood, it doesn't, or fossil fuel, it's emitting CO2. Some of that gets reabsorbed by trees. Some of that gets reabsorbed by the oceans. When the trees do decay and decompose, much of that goes into our soils. It's a lot more complex than BED makes out. And we have to understand the complexity. Next slide, please. This diagram is trying to show kind of the double whammy when we think about wood fuel. So that first upper white is supposed to show a fossil fuel plant, and next to it is a forest. So the forest, in that sense, in that upper piece, is reabsorbing more CO2 than, say, the biomass plant in the lower section. Because we've degraded the forest, it can't reabsorb. So not only are we putting more CO2 into the atmosphere, we are degrading our forest. Less can be reabsorbed by the forest in the future. Ideally, we're looking at new clean energy sources. Sometimes we hear about carbon capture and storage. There's no cheaper, more efficient, from an energy perspective, carbon capture system than our existing forests. Next slide, please. So when I and others bring up this point, the typical BED responses, they harvest their wood sustainably. It's all residues, tops and limbs, and their wood has magic fairy dust and somehow is a lot better than all the other wood out there. And that argument's really a distraction. The contracts indicate that McNeil burns poultry chips. These are low value from the timber industry perspective, wood. But it's all wood, and all wood is going to create CO2. So I think we need to put aside the idea of is it sustainable wood or not sustainable wood? Is it tops and limbs or trees? We really just need to have BED move forward and start investing in clean new energy. Next slide, please. So I touched on the particulate matter and health concerns a bit. One of the crises we now face is a biodiversity crisis, and logging is exacerbating that process of the biodiversity crisis. There was a now hard to find, and I don't know why, a flood study done for the state legislature. It identified logging and logging roads as a cause of increased flooding. And it suggested that more would just be left in the forest after logging operations. So we need to really think about the entire impact of what we're doing when we're using McNeil. Next slide, please. Bill Moma and Juliet Rooney Varga, when they came to this symposium several years ago, provided this slide. It shows a mature tree. I think they identified it as an 8-ton oak at the time. Excuse me, no, mature oak that held about 8 tons of carbon dioxide in the tree. And they just, for comparison purposes, wanted to show what it meant was, oh, we'll just regrow trees, plant new trees, which I think, sure, needs to happen, but it's not going to replace what we're cutting down. We really need to let these forests that are not yet mature become mature. It's the best way to bring down and store carbon. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, 5.2 tons of particulate matter into the Old North End and Winooski. It also emits nitrogen oxides, sulfur dioxides, VOCs, such as benzene and formaldehyde. All these are known to human health. The Vermont Department of Health advises that Vermont spends upwards of $185 million a year on health-related issues from wood smoke particulate matter. Now that's all the wood stoves out there. It's not just McNeil. McNeil is a small piece of that. But if you extrapolate from the 40 years that McNeil has been running, on average, it has probably led to 1 premature death over those 40 years. It's wood smoke particulate matter. It is 30 times more harmful from a cost perspective than all the fossil fuels we burn. This isn't discussed in the comprehensive energy plan that the state puts out, but it needs to be addressed. The Old North End has higher rates of asthma than other parts of Vermont, and Vermont has higher rates of asthma than most other states. Next slide, please. So I had noticed originally in the net zero energy energy plan that BED didn't count the emissions from McNeil. And I started attending the joint owner meetings. I started reading the financial documents at the joint owner meetings that are held quarterly. I attend the Burlington Electric Commission meetings on a regular basis. And there's no doubt about it that the McNeil is the most expensive energy asset that we have. We pointed this out to the Public Utility Commission when they were reviewing the 2023 IRP. And the PUC said that we identified an important issue and allowed Nick and I independently to become interveners into the PUC IRP review. At that point in time, BED decided that there were off-book benefits that we weren't really appreciating or weren't really showing on the record. They had a press release, they presented to the city council, they presented. So we asked to see those documents. I think 18 months ago, we asked to see the documents that showed and evaluated these off-book benefits. And 18 months later, after a protective order that they requested, have still not provided these documents. If there was a real benefit, I would think that that would be the first thing they'd want to do. That's just me. Next slide, please. Again, 42-year-old plant. This October, it went down unexpectedly because of maintenance issues. It ran at less than expected capacity all winter. BED expected to make a profit with McNeil over the winter time. It ended up spending, I think, $1 odd million on day ahead energy market prices. They needed to run the gas generator at upwards of $700 a megawatt hour. This is this is going to be routine. You can't keep a 42-year-old plant running. No one else has. No one in the entire world has ever tried this. The money that they are putting into this plant on maintenance and repairs could be better invested into new clean energy sources. Next slide, please. In 2014, BED became the first utility to be 100% renewable. In 2015, they finished 2 solar projects that had started in 2014. And they have built no new clean or no new any energy since 2014. It's time to start building new clean energy facilities, and it's time to spend money that they would dump into the McNeil plant to spend in new clean energy sources. Yes.
Excuse me, are you wrapping up?
We ran late because they ran late, and I am wrapping up.
Right, okay, I just want to, I know people are gonna have a couple questions.
Sure.
I know we started late, but
Yep.
I want to make sure we allow time for that.
Sure. All right, next slide, please. That the next slide? No, there's one prior to that, I think. Flawed policies. Oh, I was there. I'm sorry, my fault. The last point is, we're the only city that has put the utility in charge of running the largest polluter in the state, also in charge of our climate plans. I think that is a flawed policy that needs to change. Next slide, please. And we can jump ahead to advocate and actions. So Nick and I are here to raise awareness, maybe correct some misunderstandings about what's going on. And we're asking folks if they agree to contact our city councilors, our state legislators, and move us forward. At the state level, we haven't really done enough. The state asked the utilities to move towards 100% clean energy without realizing the difficulty of that matter. Other states, Massachusetts, Connecticut, are actually moving forward and investing in things like offshore wind, et cetera, et cetera. And Vermont is not doing that. And we need to. I'll end there. Nick, did I miss anything that you want to?
I just wanted to say that we have a sign-up sheet if people are interested in getting more information, and we also have a handout. Thank you.
I'd love to answer any questions.
Can you get a? Sure. So my general question, do you have any idea of what it might cost to have an alternative energy source that would provide similar power?
Thank you for the question. Yes, because that's yes, thank you for the question. I picked up food at the Intervale Community Farm. I'm a member there today. I ran and drove by McNeil. McNeil is not running today.
Right.
Our lights are still on because there's alternatives already out there, and there's cheaper alternatives already out there. Saying that, as we've been reading about the grid and we need more power. So even though there's alternatives out there now, we still need to build more power. BED could enter into a power purchase agreement with any of a number of different energy generating facilities in the New England area and replace McNeil tomorrow. They're being picky about it because they want a renewable resource. Well, I shouldn't say they're being picky. They haven't even looked to replace McNeil. What they're looking, yes, go ahead.
It's a trade-off. In other words, you're saying, I mean.
It's all a trade-off.
Right. A priority.
You know, there's problems with solar.
There's problems with wind.
Right, but
yes.
When you look at the trade-offs, wood burning and McNeil are low on the list. There's abundance of better resources out there that are already out there. Saying that I think we can build more. We can build a 20-watt iron air battery storage system, for example. We can identify rooftops throughout the city and help subsidize putting more solar up there. There are definitely possibilities. We can get the state to look to at a state level to contract for some offshore wind or build other facilities, because even though BED is the largest municipal facility in the state, as things go, we are small potatoes. And a lot of the facilities in the Northeast don't want to deal with buying or selling the amount that we need as a city. They want larger purchases.
I mean, it might be helpful to come up with like 3 to 5 concepts of just saying proposal. I mean, I'm not saying just big picture of like, this is one situation where you're trading off whatever, whether it's maybe it's not all green energy, but it's 80% or something. Okay.
Yeah, the Burlington Electric Commission and the two committee, as Becca can attest, that they've heard from me.
And they're limited to like 5 ideas.
What should happen is Burlington Electric should issue a request for proposals for alternative sources of power from all sources, not limited to any type of power, and then see what they get in response and weigh the pros and cons of each proposal.
But I liked your question because there's a common misconception that we need McNeil to keep our lights on, and that's not the case. Randy.
Yeah, I agree with Pike and Nick. Burlington and Vermont are part of the New England grid. And right now, there's plenty of power on the New England grid. We could shut off McNeil tomorrow and the lights would not even flicker. And the New England, the New England grid is powered. It's a mix. There's Hydro-Quebec, which is 12 or 14% of the New England grid. There's some nuclear. There's a bunch of gas-fired plants, which, as Pike pointed out, produce less CO2 per megawatt than biomass does. We do need to be mindful of the fact that demand for electricity is growing pretty rapidly as we move to heat pumps and to electric cars. I think it unlikely that any big data centers will get sited in Vermont, because we did pass a bill this session which required any data centers to do a lot of things to ensure that it didn't increase the rates of power for other people in Vermont, that it doesn't use surface or groundwater and so forth. So I think the fact that we did all that anyone building here will have to be very meticulous about that, and about noise and about other things, and the fact that New England generally has higher power rates than the rest of the country make it unlikely we will deal with a data center. But we are electrifying as fast as we can in terms of transportation and heating and cooling. So we will need a lot more generation, and it is not perfectly clear how we can build generation as fast as demand is increasing. So
Can I jump on what Bram said?
We need to wrap up.
Okay. So I agree that we won't need data centers. I think we still need to build new clean power because 50% of our grid roughly is natural gas, which is cleaner than biomass, but it's still emitting. We have a large amount of nuclear and wind, but we need to get ourselves off on a New England perspective, get ourselves off that natural gas. 2014, BED said we're 100% renewable, and then kind of sat there and said, and we don't need to do anything else. I think we need to not only address what we're doing here, but recognize that the grid is half gas, and we need to build more new clean power to help get everyone off that.
Great.
Thank you. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
We have literature and a sign up if anyone wants more information.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, next on our agenda, we have Hannah Breslin and Deputy Chief Young on the Parallel Justice Commission.
Let me make sure that okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Hannah Breslin. I'm a victim service specialist with the Burlington Community Justice Center, and I lead the Parallel Justice Program, which I will go over a little bit in a moment. And I'm going to pass this over to Deputy Chief Young.
Thank you, Hannah. Good evening, everyone. I'm John Young. I serve as the Deputy Chief of Police at Burlington PD.
All right. Can we go to the next slide? Thank you so much.
So just 3 slides that we have here tonight. If you watched the Police Commission or City Council, you would have seen these between Jeff and the Chief as they were presented. These slides depict, this one depicts the incidents between 2016 and 2026 and what we anticipate, how we anticipate 2026 to end. You can see a dip 2020, 21, basically due to COVID hit us, schools closed, businesses closed, a lot of things shut down. So our call volume was really down. Our incident driven statistics were down just because we weren't interacting with so many people.
Next slide.
So these discretionary incidents, 2016 to 26, the discretionary tab is a new call type for us in our in-house data system that we use. It was new in the last year, and it gives it just like it sounds, discretionary incidents. It gives officers the discretion to do things when they see fit, when there's nothing else going on. They do these discretionary activities, such as like traffic, directed patrol, and foot patrol. So it also indicates that these can be done in fairly fast succession. You can do, if you're on a traffic detail, officers can do, upwards of 10 traffic stops an hour if they needed to. Directed patrol is the data-driven component that we use to do this, to get out on foot in a hot spot in the city, something that's probably like plaguing some citizens in the city and visitors alike. So it's our attempt to get out there and get some data-driven approaches to nip that in the bud. The foot patrol is just getting into the neighborhoods, communities, parks, just to get people, familiar with the faces, get us familiar with folks, just a meet and greet, just like we used to do. It hasn't really changed between foot patrol and directed patrol. It's just that one is really data-driven at this point.
Next slide. Do we missing a slide here? I know I sent two, and so it might have been confusing, but I don't know if you wanted to go through discretionary traffic stops between 2012 and 2025.
Sure. Yes, there was supposed to be one more slide. Apologize for
My
that.
apologies.
Yeah, so 2012 to 2025, the discretionary traffic stops. You can see that we are, well, I can't see it right now, but we are at 957 for the year ending 2025. Back in 2012, we were at nearly 5,600. That's basically due to, decreased presence in cars, trying to afford officers more time in their patrol district, more time on foot, having a personal presence downtown and in different communities throughout the city. So that's basically what this is attributing to right here.
Thank you so much.
I'm happy to answer any questions once Hannah's done.
All right, great. On to victim services at the Burlington Community Justice Center. So the connection between the Burlington Police Department and the Community Justice Center a lot of times is me. I am a victim service specialist with the Parallel Justice Program. I'm located out of the Burlington Police Department primarily, and I work for the Community Justice Center. Parallel Justice is one of 3 different types of victim services that we offer. I'm going to get into the nitty-gritty on that in just a moment. The other 2 are the Conflict Assistance Program, which is led by my awesome colleague, Barb. A lot of that is working with people who are in conflict, hence the Conflict Assistance Program. I see a lot of it and refer a lot of times that with neighbor disputes. And so she's going to work with people one-on-one with conflict coaching, restorative dialogues, workshops. She does that a lot. You might have seen her. I know that she's done the MPA tour before, and a lot of mediation work. And then we have victim services and restorative justice in a more general sense, which that is primarily with court diversion programs. So such as Tamarack pre-charge, court diversion, post-conviction reparative, and then there's youth restorative programs as well. Next slide. So the Parallel Justice Program is the primary program that I work on and the biggest connection that I have with the work of the Burlington Police Department. I receive referrals each week from the Burlington Police Department of recent crimes that have been committed and those that have been impacted by those crimes. Those crimes may not have a person yet identified as the responsible party or what some might refer to as the offender. So I could be supporting somebody that doesn't know what next steps are coming, or there might not be next steps as of yet when it comes to the criminal justice system. The reason why it's called parallel justice is because I work parallel to the criminal justice system. I don't work within it, which is helpful for people who might not want to connect with the justice system, but they need support systems because they have been victimized and impacted by crime. So they don't actually have to report to the police to come to me. I get direct referrals. I get referrals that are self-directed. I get referrals from community partners. I have people that just randomly have my card, and so they hand it out to their friends who have experienced something, and then we can go from there. And sometimes people want to go into the direction where they want to report to the police, and sometimes they don't. And what that can look like is supporting them in a manner that is restorative, asking the question, what impacted you? What do you need to basically make things right? And sometimes that's a very personal thing of steps that they can take to get back on their feet or get back to feeling safe, to feeling as though they're being cared for. And a lot of times too, the biggest thing is validation, being heard, being validated for their experience. And that's a lot of what I provide to people. I also do some systems advocacy and accompaniment. I will go to court cases. Primarily, I support people in court around civil court cases for no stalking orders, and support them in navigating that, because these systems are very complex and you don't really know about them too much until you're forced to actually engage with them. There is minimal financial funding support. So I do have a victims fund that I can utilize to help people. I would say the majority of what I help people with is covering the cost of a deductible with an insurance. So like if their home was broken into and there was damage caused and their homeowner's insurance has a deductible, I can help support with the fund to cover the cost of the deductible, and then the insurance covers the rest. That goes the same with like cars. The biggest thing that I've seen with cars, aside from like broken windows or, you know, things getting torn up in the dashboard area because, you know, to jumpstart a car, is key fob replacement. People don't realize how expensive that is. That could be like $700. And so I do help out a lot with that. I also help people with navigating the conversations with insurance because it is complicated. We have a uninsured motorist law in Vermont, which is there to protect people in cases of like leaving the scene of an accident. A lot of insurance companies are unaware of this, but they need to be held to that. So I help them get educated on what our laws are so that when they speak to their insurance company, they can go in with confidence and get the coverage that they deserve and what they're honestly paying for. I believe that's the last slide. Go to this one. This is our contact information. We really wanted to kind of, and I'm seeing a spelling error on that one. Not in the contact information, but a little quote I put at the end. So anyways, we wanted to open this up as a community discussion. We're going to start doing kind of like this MPA tour. You all are first. So please be nice. I know you all are lovely, but I wanted to hear from you all, and we might not be able to answer all questions. We might not have time to answer all questions. And that's why we have the contact information up there. So please feel free to reach out. And you know, somebody online is raising their hand.
Looks like Romeo. Romeo, go ahead.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Oh, wonderful.
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. So my question is, I am for restorative justice, giving people a second chance to, you know, get back to the community and do the right thing. But in the case of repeat offenders, both misdemeanor and felony, what do you guys do to dissuade folks like that commit the same thing over and over and over again? In part, I'm saying this because I used to work at the bus station, and I've seen quite a number of stuff where people technically brag about nothing happening to them and being able to come back to the community again, only to recommit the same crime. Of course, some cases would probably be mental health issues or so on and so forth. But in the grand scheme of things, what do you guys generally do really to dissuade people from doing the same crime over and over again?
So I'm going to give you kind of two answers to that question. One of them would be like, just to kind of give you an understanding about how restorative processes work within court diversion programs. I don't lead that program, so I'm not going to have the full details of it because that's not my wheelhouse. And I would definitely, if I don't have the full answer for you, recommend to reach out to the Burlington Community Justice Center and ask those questions. With that process, they go through what's referred to as a restorative agreement. There's a myriad of things that could be included into that agreement. And a lot of times it is connected to why the person landed there. So the Tamarack program, which is a court diversion program, that's sometimes referred to as treatment diversion. That's for people that have mental health issues and substance use disorder. And the reason why they are there is connected to their mental health or substance use disorder. So the agreement that they'll work on with the case manager is typically around what next steps they need to do to be able to be successful in closing out that program and the next steps in essentially trying to rebuild their lives. There is also the diversion program, which that tends to be people that typically it's not connected to mental health. Typically it's not connected to substance use why they're there. And a lot of the reason why they go through that program is based off of state statutes. And that also goes with the Tamarack program. So what I would say too is look at the state statutes when it comes to the concerns around repeat offenses, how that works. There's timelines too of like an offense took place on this year or a year, past. And then there's this one. And depending on the timeline, that could be would determine why somebody is being offered the option of diversion. And so I can't really get into details on that because I work under the statute as what's referred to as a victim liaison. So I support the people that have been impacted on those cases. I work with them and sometimes try to see if they want to engage in the restorative process. And sometimes that's indirect by providing me with an impact statement that I provide on their behalf. Sometimes they want to be a part of a restorative process, which is basically a restorative discussion. Sometimes it's done as a circle, sometimes it's done as a panel where we bring in volunteers. It's kind of a wide variety of what can be held. So that's as much as I can answer for that piece, because I am going to stay in my wheelhouse and answer what I know, because I also know that you deserve to have accuracy in your answers. So I'd recommend reaching out to the CJC if that does not completely answer it, because we do have people that lead those programs, and definitely engage with state legislators because so much of this is dependent on state statutes. The second direction that I was also going to go in on this is, you had asked, oh goodness, Romeo, I'm so sorry. I'm like kind of trying to piece together what you had asked. You had asked about what we do for people that are repeat offenders and how we support them and why did they land in there? And I'm like forgetting other pieces. Am I missing something from the question?
No, you're getting it right. Thank you.
Okay. I feel like I'm missing a piece, so I might come back around to you. And feel free to reach out to me as well, because my email address was up there and you can definitely reach out. You can also find our contact information on the website.
Thank you. Say, I think you're doing a phenomenal job and I really appreciate the work that you do. And to me, I think our expectations as potential victims of crime is that we'll have this interaction and we'll get an apology or some sort of, and the criminal justice system provides none of that. That if you commit a crime in the criminal justice system, your lawyer tells you to shut up. And never say anything, never talk to anyone, keep it quiet. That's what the lawyers tell you. So you're providing an alternate path that really provides what we need, which is a restorative justice.
Thank you. And I appreciate that context and that, I appreciate it. And clearly you're coming from a place of educated opinion, I'm assuming, on this too. Seems like you know quite a lot about it.
The other side of what this individual asked is, to what degree is what you and restorative justice do an enabler of more crime because of the squishiness of the consequences?
I think it can kind of depend on the individual. And what I will say is,
I'm talking about the system.
Oh, the system. Yeah. I mean, to be honest, I'm very honest with people that I work with who have been victimized and impacted by crime, which is why I definitely feel you on that, because that sentiment that you shared is a common one where people feel very dismissed by the criminal justice system. As for how we go about punishment and the restorative piece of it, I think that when it comes down to how our statutes look and what we want it to look like, that's a collective decision. And which is why I think having multiple opinions and multiple input is really important on it. I don't make the decisions though, I will be honest. When it comes to court diversion programs, it's just what's referred to us. A lot of those decisions are based off of statutes. They are also based off of decisions being made or recommended in the realm of prosecution, as well as what's being determined by judges. And people that have been referred to court diversion programs can say that they don't want to go through it and they'll go through the court system. If they cannot finish the programs, they will be sent back to the court system. So their case will then go back to the court system. As for the punishment piece, when it comes to the restorative process, from what I have seen and I have experienced, there are some people that don't really hold it seriously. There are some people that are terrified of participating in it because you're essentially having people sit and talk about the poor decisions that they have made and the harm that they have caused and facing it, which I think a lot of people can be really scared of doing. And I think a lot of people too don't necessarily want to be that person, but the decision to change is up to them. And it's not necessarily something that can be forced.
Bram, did you?
Yeah, do you have data on the relative recidivism rates for people who are in diversion versus those who go through the criminal justice system?
That could be found on the Burlington CJC website. The newsletter is on there. So that was released, I want to say in February. So we release that each year. Also, the Attorney General's office is the one that oversees court diversion programs across the state. And so like the court diversion program in Chittenden County is going to function the same way as it does in other counties. It's very standardized and we are overseen by the Attorney General's office. So they'll have that data when it comes to multiple counties. And then the data that comes from the Burlington Community Justice Center is around the work that has been done by the Burlington Community Justice Center, which is countywide for the court diversion programs.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Just adding to that, nationwide, juvenile prisons are all closing because recidivism in juvenile jail is way higher than any other form of treatment for young boys and girls that have committed crime. So there's just nothing that it does that makes our lives better. Prison's not the answer.
Romeo, do you have your hand up again?
Yes. I just had one additional question, if that's okay.
Sure.
Okay. What I wanted to find out was, from your lived experience in doing what you're doing, what is the success rate? Not necessarily from the city sound bites of what is put out there in official lines, but just from your experience doing what you're doing. What is the success rate that you're seeing? Is it working? Is it a work in progress? What do you really see? Thank you.
So to be honest with you, I primarily focus on victim services, which isn't court diversion. I am brought in maybe on half of the court diversion cases that come through, and it's minimal. I do a lot of interactions with the impacted party, not with the responsible party. What I will say is, due to the questions that are being asked, this is a prompt to me to speak to my colleagues and have them start to do their MPA tours so that you all can start to get your answers. What I will say, my success rate when it comes to working with people that have been victimized, whether they have an identified responsible party who has been charged and is going through the court system or not, is good. I never received bad feedback. At least I don't know. And I feel like my supervisor would tell me. My supervisor's Becky. It's not, I was going to call you, it's not Deputy Chief Young. I call him DC Young. I'm sorry. But he would tell me as well. I already know that. So like, I haven't received any negative feedback. People's experience with being supported through victim services because it doesn't necessarily exist. And I think you made a good point. Like our criminal justice system, when somebody is identified as the responsible party or the offender, the focus is purely on them. And the person that has been impacted is kind of pushed to the side. And that can feel very dismissive, and it can compound harm, even though that's not the intention. And so people in my type of position, especially when people don't typically get reached out to unless somebody is going through the court system, just being able to connect with me. Like I did phone calls today for people that I had leaving the scene of the accident. And some of them were just like, oh no, I'm good. I already went through the whole thing. But the thing that mattered to them is I called them and I said, I'm really sorry this happened to you. Just the acknowledgement, because it's not that we don't know that what's happening. Like I've lived in Burlington for 15 years. I've never seen it this bad. And it breaks my heart. And I know that people are being harmed. I've been harmed. My car has been rummaged through so many times and I hate it. I hate it so much. It's a violation. Even if they don't take anything, even if they don't damage anything, my car will never feel the same because the vibes are ruined at that point. And if you have a car and you love to go for a drive with music on, the vibes matter. So like, it doesn't matter if it's a bike theft or if it's a aggravated assault, there is an impact to a person's life that they now need to navigate with. And I'm there to help support them through that. And that's a huge deal to people and therefore a huge deal to me because at least I know I'm doing something good for my community. So I'm sorry, Romeo, that might not answer your question fully. And also thank you for the questions because I'm going to annoy my colleagues to start doing their MPA tours. Great. Anybody want to put John in the hot seat over here? He's just sitting here.
Anybody?
No one. Oh.
How's it going?
Okay.
Come
Then Becca.
So how does someone get referred to the parallel justice or diversion? And has Deputy Chief Young ever referred anyone to those programs?
So, so the parallel justice program is separate from diversion. And so I get brought in on those just because of what my job position is. And to kind of give you an idea, like when I do my timesheet, the grants and the funds that I work under for parallel justice is separate from what I work under for court diversion. So I'm going to actually mark them separately in my timesheet. How it gets referred to me is I get a list from the BPD. This is a part of our agreement, our MOU. And this position has existed out of the BPD, I think, since 2006. And so that list comes to me. I have determined how to do that with Chief Burke. So like we determined from one Tuesday to the next Tuesday, that also gives a weekend, since a lot of this stuff pops off on weekends, that gives a weekend kind of room for the officers to do what they got to do with these cases. So that's how I get those referrals. That comes as a list. He hasn't yet referred somebody to me directly. He might refer somebody to me directly. As for the diversion piece, I'll leave that to you. When it comes to the direct referrals, a lot of times it's people that go onto our website. We're told to go onto our website or maybe reach out because they're speaking with their therapist and their therapist knows about these programs, or they're working with another local nonprofit, or I handed out my card to somebody that handed that card to somebody. I think at this point, all of my cards are across the city. So that's my piece. You want to?
You have certainly I oversee the ones that come from uniform patrol. They're in paper form or they're in electronic format, and they come through my desk. Most of them do, so I do look at them. We have frequent conversations about these, and I've used the tool. It has been a number of years, just because I haven't been in the position to use it in several years. But it's a great tool, and I feel like we do underuse it quite a bit.
Okay, got a question.
I have a question for DC Young. And this is a question that I care about personally, and also I hear a lot about, and it's based on your traffic stop slide. If you are out on the streets of Burlington, it seems like people are driving crazy these days. They're driving too fast and not obeying the traffic laws. And when I look at the data, and I've known about this for some time, I can't help see the correlation between the decrease in traffic patrol and the increase in crazy drivers. So that's my very data savvy way of framing that. So is there anything, I know you all are overworked and understaffed, and we're all working on that, and thank you. And thank you for being here tonight. But what can, so I didn't introduce myself, but I'm the city councilor for Ward 6. And is there anything the council could do to encourage that, to free up time? Or could we work with Chief Burke on prioritization? Or are you already all thinking about that? Because I think it's one of those daily issues that's on a lot of people's minds. And it's one of those things, Hannah, as you were talking earlier about the vibes, it really, if you have 3 cars go by you and then you see some kids on their dirt bikes on the sidewalk doing wheelies, and it makes you feel unsafe on your way to work or to drop your kids at daycare or wherever. And I think that really adds up over time. So just curious if there's a plan in place to have BPD take that kind of back onto your plate at all.
Thank you for voicing that concern. There has been an uptick in motor vehicle activity, in the last couple of months, just because some of the state and federal grants have come out, and we are doing a lot more just proactive enforcement generally. Some of it's from an overtime basis that we assume through the grant, and some of it's just on-duty officers conducting routine traffic stops throughout their shift when they have time. A lot of the things that we could do to make that better is just letting us know, like voicing your concern to us directly about places like hotspots that we can put on the X patrol list, so that when we do have that downtime or we do have somebody assigned to that detail, we can hit those hotspots so that we can address the problems right up front. We get a lot from the north end. We get a lot from, from the Lake Street area specifically. So we try to get down there quite often, just because some of the same complainants, they have video. It's not just somebody calling because they're mad 1 or 2 times. They have documented video over and over of repeated violators. And we like to just know about it so we can put our personnel to use down there the best way possible.
Get your car.
Sure.
I'm gonna email you my list.
I just changed my uniform tonight, but I'll get you.
Okay. I was just gonna ask, should people email you?
Yes, please. That's
Okay.
the best.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right, great. Thank you so much. And we would like to have you back with your colleagues.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to pressure them for it. And Becca, his email address is right up there. Yeah.
Can I ask one question?
Thank you all so much.
Can I ask one question? to the chief?
Romeo.
Certainly.
Oh, thank you. And I'll be quick, I promise. This pertains to the borders are being in town a couple of days ago, meeting the police chief and South Burlington police chief. Is there anything you are at liberty to share with us at the ward level pertaining to that regarding what happened, the immigration rate since the borders was here in town a couple of days ago?
I have no knowledge at all about the meeting, nor was I present.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nancy, can I make one request and offer one piece of good news?
Sure.
Thank you. So the request is on the education transformation that we are undertaking in the state. And for some odd reason, the governor has dug his heels in on forced school district mergers and is threatening to veto not just the ed bill, but the budget if we do not give him forced school district mergers. And because after a great deal of study, it turns out there is no data at all to suggest that that will either save money or improve quality, and data to suggest it is hugely disruptive to school systems. The bill we passed does not have forced school district mergers in it. It has voluntary school district mergers, and it has other measures to save money and improve quality. But if you could let the governor know that you would prefer that he abandon his disastrous attachment to forced school district mergers, that would be helpful. And the piece of good news, today we passed overwhelmingly a law expanding the areas in which ICE cannot conduct civil arrest, which is immigration arrest. It was just traveling to and from courts, and we expanded it to include schools, hospitals, public libraries, social service providers, other healthcare providers, and a number of other places. So, and as that was passed with bipartisan, tripartisan support. And so I leave you with a little bit of good news as we attempt to protect everybody's civil rights. Guns and bars is not moving out of the Government Operations Committee because of various Vermont laws. Charter changes have to be approved by the legislature and they go to the Government Ops Committee. I made a rookie mistake. I introduced a bill so that charter changes would just go directly to the whole legislature. So the Burlington delegation could say, hey, everybody, here's why we want this for Burlington. And I think there's a better chance that everyone would say, okay, if it's what Burlington wants, we'll support you. And my rookie error, I thought that would get assigned to the Rules Committee. But rookie error, the speaker assigned it to the Government Operations Committee, who were completely unlikely to give up their ability to kill charter changes. So I will try again next session if I should get reelected, which is an if.
Okay. Becca, you're. Excuse me?
Where's Buddy?
Buddy had another meeting.
I can tell you. Buddy is at the budget presentation from the mayor's office tonight. The council got double booked tonight. It's a busy season with the budget going on. So a few things. First, this is my first NPA since being reelected as your Ward 6 district city councilor. So thank you for the honor of being able to serve the community for another 2 years. I'm excited to be here. A few updates. I did want to just address your question about the guns in bars. That has been also reintroduced as a statewide law change by Senator Phil Baruth because it got held up. Really unfortunate result in the GovOps committee, which is run by Democrats. The chair there is refusing to hold the vote, which even though it might fail, I believe that the vote should be held so that our elected representatives can be held accountable for their choices. So, but I'm grateful to Senator Baruth for introducing another version of the bill, which I think would, if it moves forward, I think it would actually be even better because it does make sense to have the law be consistent across the entire state.
So Republican states have that.
They do.
Yes.
You're right. But I just have I think we're over time here, or I have 3 minutes.
Yeah,
Good.
you have.
I will have
and
no
we
trouble.
We started 5 minutes.
Okay,
late, so
good.
go ahead.
I just have a few updates from our work at the city council. The big one is just a general announcement that the annual budget process is underway. As I mentioned, I'm not going to go into a lot of details. There are lots of departmental presentations happening over the previous 2 weeks and for about 2 more weeks that you can go on Civic Clerk and dive into the details on. My request for today, although I'm happy to answer any specific questions if you have them, is just to be in touch with myself and Buddy about city services that you either love or could do without, because that is the input that I need to make budget decisions. I don't get that, a lot of input like that. If you say maybe I could shovel my own sidewalk in front of my house, or I would rather skate to work than salt the roads, or that's a joke. We're not going to do that. But everybody engages with the city in their own way and uses city services, consumes, appreciates them in different ways. So I just like to get a sense of that as I head into the budget discussions. I also encourage you to reach out to the mayor's office with your thoughts on that. The budget is that whole process. It's usually described as the mayor's budget because the administration is the driver of that and puts it together. And then the council is more of a reactive approval role in that dynamic. So that's the budget. And then we had a great Parks, Arts, and Culture Committee meeting the other day, which is a committee I serve on. And there are 2 hot topics at that committee that I just wanted to give a quick report out on. One was the elm tree removal. I know a lot of folks ash tree, thank you. A lot of folks are concerned about about that, asking about stump removal and lots of topics. So I got a good update on that. If anyone has questions, I'm happy to answer them. And I also learned a little bit about I'm just trying to remember if it's a DPW staff member or the city arborist VJ. He's in the parks department. Sorry. He's very available to answer your questions in a much more knowledgeable way than I could ever do. So I'm happy to connect you with him if you have questions about that. And then the other hot topic that day was the status of the urban reserve. We talked about some really robust, very direly needed cleanup efforts that have recently gone on. So we took a big step forward in cleaning up the urban reserve, which, if you're not familiar, is the area right on either side of the bike path just north of the sailing center. And there's been a lot of camping and tents and associated trash there accumulating all winter and into the spring. A big cleanup was just done. And then beyond that, we had a great discussion about the need to make a more sustainable process overall that both discourages camping where it shouldn't be happening, which then would have the impact of discouraging trash collection. And we're always trying to work on our systems for connecting the folks who might be thinking about camping to better housing options as well, which is a key step there. And those are my updates for today. Happy to answer any questions. Diane?
So just on the urban reserve, I was on my bike right along that about a month and a half ago on one of those sort of random warm days, and then again on Monday. And the number of tents, now that we're actually into spring, was probably triple. So it's not just trash and things that have been left behind. And it's heartbreaking. It's absolutely heartbreaking that people are living like that. And I know that this is not something that the city can just fix. But to hear you talking about cleanup almost seems irrelevant to the real problem of these people who have nowhere to live and therefore are living there.
Yes, thank you. And so those are great points, and I agree with you. I was mostly speaking about the cleanup since it was a major effort that has just happened, and we got a full report of how much that cost also, which I think is an important consideration. My challenge to the director of Parks and Rec was, what would it take? You know, we all know this is a big issue. It's multi-layered. It's not within our control entirely, but I challenged him to come to us with some solutions of what would it take to stop camping in that area entirely? How could we do that? It would have to be a combination of enforcement. It would have to be a combination of enforcement and connecting people with housing. So I think I'm on the same page with you, Diane, that it's oh, sorry, Gail. That I was looking up there before. That it's not a sustainable, it's not okay what's going on down there. It's not what anyone, I won't speak for everyone, but it's not what I want to see going on in our city for so many reasons, both humanitarian and just for the quality of life for everyone else who lives here and uses the bike path. And especially with the marathon coming up, we want to make sure that that area of the city, which I consider to be a crown jewel of Burlington, is really in ship shape for all the great visitors and activities that we're going to have there. So we are a long ways off from solving that. I wish we were not so far off, but from my part, I'm committed to keeping on asking the questions that we need to keep making progress.
I attended the meeting too, which Faye and I did. And, you know, the deal was that there's tons of waste going into the lake. And the deal was no tents on the west side of the Greenway, right? And within a day, there were 6 tents on the west side of the Greenway. So there's, you know, how do you enforce rules, right? That's what we were talking about. I mean, people that are building tents are not, are able to understand rules. And they're choosing not to follow our dictates that we don't want the waste in the lake. Go on the other side of the greenway and put your tent up there, right? That's the rule now. I don't understand how we can enforce anything.
Well, technically the rule is no camping allowed anywhere, but we're trying, and I honestly, I think that might be one of the problems. We're trying to kind of make this middle ground. And I would rather us just follow the rule that actually exists. But of course, that is an oversimplification and a lot easier to say than to do. But I agree with you. I would like to see more robust enforcement of whatever path it is that we decide to take, because it's not happening right now. That's creative.
Any other questions for Counselor?
Great. All right. Thanks, everyone. Thanks.
Thank you.
Nancy.
Thanks for being.
Dale, who's your name?
I totally get that.
Yeah.
Okay, we are adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for doing it.
I'll be brand new. There here.
I used to.
I saw some.
Yeah. You identify with the word.
Someone wasn't.